Although we had been warned by some of the greatest political thinkers of the 19th century, by de Tocqueville and Lord Acton, that socialism means slavery, we have steadily moved in the direction of socialism. And now that we have seen a new form of slavery arise before our eyes, we have so completely forgotten the warning that it scarcely occurs to us that the two things may be connected.
Yeah, I need the reposition. I mean it, I see the vision. Demeanors of combatants, staff the mass malicious. Lethal last inscription, appease the past commission. Caterwaller leap into this catatonic crimson tide. Synthesize, splitting when the liquids rise. Lit against so desperately endeavor to convince the tribe. Lionize, mix it with the simple times. Little by little he is getting them to sense the crime. Litany literally hits the eye. Cities fall, the lemmings march off rhythm in a single file. Finalize, isolate the diatribe. Might imbibe a tonic I've been mentioning with sobs inside. Cyanide, liars get the lies to rise. Binding the contrivances, minds that get annihilated.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network every Thursday at 1 p.m. And you could also find me on theconsciousresistance.com and theseedsofliberty.com. So today we have Jared Howe, who's a voluntarist conscious rapper. His rapping name is Jerry1, that's spelled J3443, and then number 1 spelled out. So you can find him on Facebook, his Facebook page, Jerry1, spelled out that way. Also, find him as Jared Howe. And he's also on SoundCloud. That's the main way you can find him, just by typing Jerry1. And you can also Google him by typing Rap Game Bill Hicks. So he's an awesome supporter of stand-up comedy, one of the best, one of the greatest. Unfortunately, he was died too young, right? But
Absolutely.
That's what they say, right? I hear a quote. It says, "Saints die young and pricks live forever."
It's so true.
Isn't it true?
So true.
It's like some people just who should die don't. It sucks, but that happens.
Like Dick Cheney, for instance.
Right? Yeah. Name any politician.
Or Janet Yellen. I don't want to be too mean. But, their
Rockefeller,
policies do kill people. So
they just seem like, I don't know. They seem like the undead. I don't know.
Well, it's appropriate. They created zombie banks, so it's like it's projection of their inner selves onto reality as a whole.
Right, exactly. So, you can also find him on YouTube, Jerry1. He's not too active on YouTube, but hopefully he will be. Gotta exploit every medium that we can, right, to spread the message.
Absolutely.
So, we're gonna talk about a few of his songs. One of his recent one, "Feel the Burn of Totalitarianism," which talks about Bernie Sanders, our KFC icon, and then and then Statrix and "The State is Evil." So he's famous for subtle names. So that's good. So Jared, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I found you on YouTube. You commented on one of my videos. I'm like, wow, and I checked out your channel and like pretty cool stuff. And my brother's a rapper, so of course I'm drawn to rappers who want to spread the message of liberty. And I'm like, you know what? Damn it, I gotta interview you. So, here you are.
Absolutely, man. Thanks again for having me on.
Yeah. So maybe let's start off with just give us a background as to how you got to voluntarism and anarchy. What was your path? What like books and podcasts influenced you?
I don't know so much books and podcasts. My path was very winding and zigzaggy. I think I started probably a long time ago with just, I want to call it 2006, like 9/11 truth, like that whole thing, the conspiracy theories around that really got me passionately motivated to want to do something about government corruption. And I didn't know what to do, so I kind of ended up falling into like the whole Ron Paul campaign, which gave me, I think, a lot of correct answers, like end central banks and the war stuff like that, which is really obvious to me, but it didn't give me a lot of the whole, the principles behind liberty and self-ownership, and then like the non-aggression principle and stuff like that. So even though a lot of the answers I was coming to and a lot of the things that I was, even making music about or talking about were influenced by me wanting to change the world. I don't think I had, they were influenced by that, but also influenced by, those types of principles, like the non-aggression principle, even just like basic economics. I didn't have any of that at all until recently. So even as embarrassing as it is to admit, up until probably earlier this year, I thought that, government was necessary just to maintain a monopoly on the banks. Just not have it be like a fiat money type situation. It should be like 100% reserve situation. And I had another friend who was extremely into Austrian economics and Mises and Rothbard and all those dudes. Be like, dude, you got this all wrong. And he put the Anarcho-Capitalist Manifesto in my hands by Lou Rockwell and gave me a copy of No Treason, Constitution and No Authority by Lysander Spooner.
That would do it.
That and The Law by Frederick Bastiat.
Beautiful.
I read those three and I was like, well, I just wasted a whole bunch of fucking time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes it just takes some push by, our close friends.
Yeah, man. I was minarchist for embarrassingly like 7 or 8 years. It sucks.
The Anarcho-Capitalist Manifesto, I never read that one. Is that a short one? A short book?
It is short, like 200 pages, I think. Not even. It just crushes so many left-wing narratives without even trying. It's awesome.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I have a lot of Lou Rockwell's books on my list, but of course, I think most of us have the ever-expanding to-read list.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And the ever-shrinking have-read list. Right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, for myself, I started out like as a Democrat, more because my family were Democrats. I didn't really care about politics; I was more indifferent. And then I got into first I was into precious metals, and I stumbled upon Jeff Borwick and his Dollar Vigilante, and then I Creature from Jekyll Island, and then everything with Rothbard, like what has government done to our money, and the state case for the 100% gold dollar, and and then Anatomy of the State. That was a big one for me. So yeah.
So reading the big books then.
Yeah. I mean, but they're tiny. But again, they're like just pack a punch. It's like an intellectual slap in the face.
I wish I had started there, man.
Well, I mean, we all start somewhere. So glad you're here. Glad you're spreading the message, using your music.
Thanks, man.
So how long have you been rapping? And did you always rap? Was your rap always had a freedom message, or how is that?
Yeah, in general. I mean, I can't say that it was explicitly freedom because I used to be a minarchist, so I was kind of rapping about like constitutional type things, but I was rapping about like self-ownership.
Okay.
I was rapping about not initiating force, that type of thing. And even before that, playing like guitar in metal bands and making music that was about the same type of thing. So it's always been like a independent, like a libertarian type message, if not explicitly freedom, since left-wing libertarianism isn't explicitly freedom, if that makes sense.
Have you been accused of being a right-wing nut yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite memes is you see the kid from Karate Kid, and he's like telling his sensei, Democrats call me a right-wing nut, and Republicans call me a left-wing, liberal nut, and he's like, that's because you're starting to make sense.
Yeah, dude, that's the reality of the situation. That's total truth.
It's that false dichotomy, right? If they don't understand what you're saying, you must be the other guy, the other camp,
And I don't even dare to go back through conversations I've had with people on the internet, but I've probably been like that to people, as a minarchist, and like forcing people, if you don't vote for Ron Paul, then you're evil, or if you don't vote at all, you're evil. I've probably done that before, as embarrassing as it is to say.
See that? Hey, I voted for Obama in 2008. We all have to confess our sins, before we die, right?
I can't claim to have done that. I was actually voting for. I was voting for Ron Paul, and I voted for Ron Paul in 2008.
Okay. But again, I voted just because my family's like, yeah, you vote, yeah, I'll vote, yeah. Who do I vote? Obama? All right, I'll vote for Obama, no problem. Like I didn't give much thought into it.
Even now, I mean, I'm not really convinced that voting even makes a difference as much as like talking to each other makes a difference. You know what I mean? I voted in the local election here this past, not this year, last November, just because one of the representatives that was running explicitly had Ron Paul's endorsement, seemed to be up on Austrian economics and stuff like that. And I said, you know, what could it hurt to get him into office, you know? And now that he won and he's been in office now for almost a year, and his main objective has been, excuse me, scaling back the welfare state, and the blowback is just unfucking believable, and like the hatred, like you hate poor people, you hate old people, like all this bullshit, and it's like that's what happens to anybody who's willing to stand up in front of everybody and make the hard decisions. And Stefan Molyneux makes such an excellent point about that, is what would have happened if Ron Paul had won the presidential election? What would have happened if he had returned the control of interest rates to the free market, if he had scaled back all the government programs in this environment where the vast majority of everyone's either a socialist or a fascist? People would fucking hate libertarianism and freedom and voluntarism for at least 100 or 200 years.
Yeah. I wonder that too. What if he was elected? And I think I'm happy that he wasn't, in a way, because I think he might have been assassinated.
There's that too.
You know, because I think the interests, you know, the special interests are so entrenched, and you know the root goes so deep that I think, you know, you would not only be like affecting those people on welfare and completely dependent on government, but you would affecting those people that profit from, you know, all the you know, the subsidies and the favoritism and the
like anybody who's part of a union, anybody who works for a company that subsists off government contracts and you know, grants and stuff like that. Yeah, totally. You'd have the vast majority of everybody railing against you. Although I think it was the 2014 elections, maybe, where it was like 55% non-participation rate. And I don't remember the exact poll that came out recently, but I think it was like between 50 and 70% don't trust the government or think that the government's corrupt. And I think those are pretty good numbers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The trust in Congress in general is plummeting, really, compared to like the 70s and 80s, where, you know, it's really high. People trusted their politicians at that time, but you know, no more. I mean, and I guess that's a good thing. And I go back and forth with, you know, because, you know, I've always held the view that voting is violence, and it's always imposing, you know, violently imposing your view on your neighbor against their will. So it's a violation of consent. But you know, like Jeremy from the Seize Liberty podcast, he talks about voting from the perspective of Lysander Spooner, which is more like in self-defense. Like you know, you're put in the battlefield and you don't want to kill somebody, but it's either you kill or be killed. So
I have a friend who makes that same point, the voting and self-defense point. I totally understand that. In the same sense, Lysander Spooner also makes the point that government only exists because of the support of the population. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, voting is the exact method through which the population supports it. So I agree with Lysander Spooner that it's not consent. Voting is not giving your consent. It is self-defense against, in one sense, but it's at the same time, it is support. So it is support, but it's not consent. I differentiate between that two, but the two of those things. But you're definitely supporting the existence of the system if you think you can change anything by voting, and if you're actively trying to convince anybody else to try to vote, which I wholeheartedly regret trying to do for 7 years.
Yeah, like it reminds me of that meme with Boromir. You know, when he finds the ring, right, and he's like, let's use the state to end the state. And then you have Gandalf is like, I suppose you think that's pretty clever. Which is basically what you know, people, you know, when people talk about voting in self-defense is like, you know, and Stefan Molyneux, he made a great analogy one time that really resonated with me. He's like, you know, the state is like all of us collectively blowing hot air and keeping these people in the air, right? And they're only in the air because we keep blowing the bomb in the air, right? And once we
No,
stop,
yeah,
all we
correct.
have to do is withdraw participation, right? And
Stop blowing and they all crash to the
right,
ground.
right. Or the other the cartoon that I saw with the politician speaking on a plank over a cliff, right? Everyone's standing on
Oh,
the plank.
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's the first thing that popped into my head when you were explaining that metaphor with the blowing into the air.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. The people standing on a board, they move off the plank, and
Right.
the politician just falls off the cliff.
Right. They're they don't they don't espouse any economic truths. They don't speak to the philosopher nature in people. They speak to the reptilian, primitive, instinctual limbic system portion of everyone.
My
hope,
feels.
hope, change, right?
Yeah.
Black, white, spoon.
Buzzword. Spoon.
Yeah. Right. Rich, poor, hate rich, steal more. So yeah, it's like are you seriously thinking that you're looking at these people for profound economic truths? Like, come on. So,
Even if not economic truths, just like basic common sense, right?
Right.
If somebody promises you something for free
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they don't have any money to pay for it, where is that money going to come from? They're like, well, they're not going to have to tax people more. I'm like, there's other places that money could come from that is not legit.
Right,
One
right.
of those places is counterfeiting.
exactly.
That's the big one. The other one is promising the unborn on the bond market.
Right, exactly.
It's literally human trafficking. These people are arguing for paying for things that they think would be a good idea. Just they don't have any reasoning or argument behind why it would be a good idea. Not that any of us would disagree with people being more educated or more healthy or anything like that, but they want to enslave the unborn with debt to pay for it and act like they have the moral high ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And-
you just hate you just hate poor people. No, I don't hate poor people, but I want to find a solution that helps everybody become more prosperous and have more real wealth that doesn't involve pointing guns at fetuses.
Yeah.
Or not pointing guns at fetuses, but pointing guns at parents so that they promise the fetus into the system once it's born and make sure it goes to the government administered and theft-funded schools and making sure that it enters the system so that they can shave off 50% of whatever it earns and, break a bunch of windows.
But Jared, you're just an idealist extremist, so
Yeah.
come back to the real world.
Idealism, like a priori reasoning is idealism, like 2 + 2 is 4. Are you sure 2 + 2 is always 4? You're just an idealist. Hey, a² + b² is c² on all right triangles. Are you sure? You're just an idealist. I don't believe in universals. What the fuck?
Right. Mathematics, universal. Come on, stop tugging my leg.
Supply and demand? What?
Oh man. So all right. So we talked about the glory of free stuff. So we should. It's a great segue into your your rap song "Feel the Burn." So can you talk about that and what you were what you were rapping about?
Yeah, I mean, I basically just made that because a lot of my news feed on Facebook, a lot of the bumper stickers I see in public, and a lot of the conversations that I see happening in public spaces about politics all revolve around Bernie Sanders. And it's not that I hate him more than any other politician, because I think they're all basically baby eaters, people that want to enslave babies.
Right.
But he seems to inspire the most enthusiasm and hope or naivety that things could actually be changed through the government. And it's not just that he's the most popular one, it's that his principles are so fucked, dude. Well, for the reasons we were just talking about, you're going to promise what apparently is $18 trillion worth of shit for free when there's already $18 trillion in debt. Where is that money going to come from? And I mean, in another sense, I really don't care. It's just blowing off steam. You know what I mean? Like, I want to use some harsh language that I wouldn't otherwise use in my Facebook news feed or with people that I work with or anything like that. But I feel like there's probably a whole lot of other people out there that feel that same way. So I more or less made that song for them, made that for them as well, so that they could share in my blowing off of steam.
I made a tweet recently. I think somebody posted a Bernie Sanders quote or image, and I said, when somebody promises, or when a politician promises you something for free, hold on to your wallet because you're about to get robbed.
Exactly. There's really no such thing as free. It's the biggest con in the world, and anybody who's ever tried to like take advantage of a free offer, like call in somewhere, call now for your free. Right. Like what the fuck? How do you not know that there's no such thing as free?
I know, like when you're surfing the web, right, or you're on Facebook, and you see those ads on the side, free iPad, and you know the socialists are the ones that are going to click on that. Right?
Yup, give me that. Give me every computer virus you have, as long as it comes with an iPad, which it won't.
Which it won't. You won't even get the iPad. Yeah. So. Yeah, you're right. Bernie Sanders, when that free word, that's a big one. You just throw around something, free, and you're going to catch the ears of, economically ignorant, people just thinking based on their emotions, and you're going to get a big support. You get a lot of that with Donald Trump, though, too, right?
Right. I mean, Donald Trump, and I was listening to Peter Schiff's show today. He made an excellent point about Trump in that he is perfectly appealing to everybody by seemingly promising everything in a way that makes it seem like he can deliver on his promise. And he can't. But people are buying it up because they're having an emotional reaction to it. They're like, well, he's not an establishment politician, and maybe he wants to change in things, and maybe because everybody hates him, that's a good thing. Excuse me. I think that's more scary than anything. I mean, I think they expect people to hate whoever they serve up. I think they've done the market research on that at the very least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump in that way inspires as much enthusiasm among people who are just fed up with it as he does with people who are totally naive. You know what I mean? So
I saw a video of Donald Trump a couple of days ago where he was talking about Obamacare, and the guy asked him, "So what would you do if you were elected? What would you do about Obamacare?" And he's like, "Oh, I would scrap the whole thing." Oh yeah, so what would you do? What would you do after that? I put in my own universal health care. Everybody's going to be covered. Everyone. No one's not going to be anyone that's going to be left out. Oh really? So how's it going to be? Who's going to pay for that? The government, of course.
Oh yeah, the government, the unborn babies that we're going to enslave. We got it covered. Don't worry. You're not going to be alive for it.
Yeah, that reminds me of a Bastiat quote. Is like everyone wants to live at the expense of the state, but the state lives at the expense of everyone else, right? They don't realize
it's a snake eating its own tail.
Yes. It's like, where does it go? Is the government a business? Does it earn its income through offering a superior product? No, it steals.
No. Yep. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, it's not a gun. I've literally had people tell me, "What? There's no guns." I'm like, "Oh, good. There's no guns. Nobody in the government has any guns. So you're telling me that I've been wasting my fucking time, like getting licenses and paying for insurance that the government makes me buy, and
right.
paying taxes and all this shit. I could have just not done that because there's no guns. I've been doing this thing. I've been doing this voluntarily this whole time. Wow, I'm a fucking idiot."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the gun is it's the gun in the room that nobody wants to see or acknowledge.
And it makes people really uncomfortable when you mention it too.
Oh,
and it takes a lot of wind out of their sails, especially. I'm sure a lot of people have really good intentions too, and they get really mad when you take the wind out of their sails. But intentions don't really matter, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and people say, well, we should educate everyone. Well, it's like, wait a second. Everybody should be educated for sure to some degree. They should be educated, but nobody should be stolen from to pay for that education. And really, the only people that should have opportunities for education are people who can capitalize on those opportunities. Right? I mean, he shouldn't be pushing people into school who don't really want to be there, who it's not going to help. But that's what's happening, right? The vast majority of college kids don't know what the fuck they're doing there.
Yeah.
And so the market's saturated with people who have useless degrees that people never even put any research into knowing whether or not there would be demand for what they specialized in, or they just didn't specialize in anything and got like a liberal arts degree or something like that. The market's completely saturated with college graduates, and the value of a college grad's depleted so far that they say, well, we got to have $15 minimum wage so our college grads can get paid. Like, what the fuck are they doing working at McDonald's?
Yeah. It's like it's like the Hegelian dialectic. The state creates the problem, right? Then people clamor to the politicians to solve the problem, and then their solution creates another problem. Which,
it's an infinite series of broken windows. Is all it is. It's just broken window after broken window after broken window after broken window, and it just makes society worse off. It's all it does.
Speaking of broken window, I actually my mother's a socialist, right? I gotta say it. At least once a show I say that. So something broke, like the jar broke on the in the kitchen, and then I'm like, perfect opportunity. So I'm like, have you heard of the broken window fallacy?
It's a good opportunity to get a new cookie jar.
And actually, because what also prompted me to explain that was because she said, I hate it when things break because you have to take like 15 minutes out of your day that you weren't planning on spending on cleaning up broken glass and clean up broken glass. That's 15 minutes lost. I'm like, exactly. Now apply that to government.
Just make the connection.
Yeah, and she has a business, right? So I'm like, do you think you would? Well, I don't think I asked her this, but maybe I should. I was thinking about asking. Do you think if a Mack truck plows into your building, would that be good and economic good because you're providing jobs for the construction workers and the people who repair the house, the roof and the door and the windows? Is that an overall good?
No. You might have to draw some parallels for her, though, between breaking jars and, you know what I mean? It is a waste of time.
Right. And it's amazing. Like you talk about broken window fallacy, like, when I learned that, it's like you really realize that the government is one giant broken window fallacy, right?
That's all it is. Everything it does, it presents itself to the solution it caused 100% of the time. Yeah. Every single time.
Yeah, that diverts precious resources and capital from ways that it could have been used to actually enhance people's lives and increase their standard of living, and rather it's being used it's funneled either to for war, for invasions, or being forced to start jobs that nobody wants.
Well, to the point that the currency in circulation's not even. It's not even redeemable for anything.
Right,
Each individual, it's a fiduciary media, right? So every unit of currency in circulation is somebody owes on it. And so they're basically just, it's a fucking Ponzi scheme. And they just need more people constantly. Yeah. That's all it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. So maybe can you describe your other songs? So we have Statrix and The State is Evil. Can you go into those?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably describe both those songs at the same time, as they're very similar in topic. But they both have Stefan Molyneux quotes in them, and they're both basically...
Just because you said that, now I have to listen to them, so awesome.
Actually, if that makes a difference, I'll go ahead and say that a lot of my songs have Stefan Molyneux samples in them.
Excellent.
But, no, I mean, I'm always trying to make the point that the state is evil, right? And just, in a sense, blow off steam. But with hip-hop, or at least I am... It's a lot of left-leaning people in the hip-hop culture in general. Like, they have a lot of contempt for government, but at the same time, their contempt for government is not that government exists. It's that they want government to be doing something in their benefit instead of somebody else's benefit. Right. So I try not to be too explicit with like my writing style. I like to leave room for interpretation so that people who aren't, even though my titles are like, The State is Evil or The Statrix or something like that, if you were to just hear the song and not see the title, if it just randomly came on, a podcast or a radio, you might not necessarily think that it was an anti-government song. You might be able to attach your own meaning to it. And I mean, every song is different to a degree. Those songs aren't really like that, but there is still a lot of stuff that's open to interpretation, because I don't just explicitly spoon feed the meaning of the content to people. I keep it kind of quick.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because my brother's into rap, so he constantly talks about rap and how hip hop does have roots in being subversive and anti-status quo, and especially the police, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of that.
But most of it's like fuck the police and
Right.
fucking go kill a cop, and I'm
Right.
really not about that at all. I
Right,
can
right,
see
right,
why
right.
people would be angry about it, but think about it, dude. Oh my god, it's just like the worst possible reaction. You got everything that's wrong down to a T, but your solution to it is just going to make the problem so much worse. And
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, violence only begets violence. Like people, when I talk about the stuff that I talk about, and they see what I write about, some people say, "All right, let's start the revolution." I'm like, no, let's not, please.
no, it's not.
Because which violent revolution ever produced a peaceful, actually peaceful government is an oxymoron. So
None. And if you have a violent revolution, when you start with a bunch of young socialists, what type of situation do you end up with, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's not good.
Exactly.
It's not good.
Yeah, I mean that's basically how Hitler came to power, right? People, fed up and angry, and you all of a sudden you have a brutal dictator, and everyone, obeyed his every whim. And what happened? Oh my
Yeah.
God, a few million people died. Okay.
Socialism is how they hook young people on government. It really is. It really is. Fascism's for the rich people, getting the rich people into government. Socialism's for the young people and the poor people. And it works so fucking good on young people that don't know anything about economics. Everything should be free. College should be free. That's a pretty common one because a lot of people get forced into college on loans that they're never going to be able to pay back. So it's a huge conflict of interest, right? They want college to be free because they made a whole bunch of stupid fucking decisions that they couldn't stand up to their parents, or they couldn't stand up to the people in their life that were pressuring them, or they just genuinely wanted to do it and had no idea where they were going. You know what I mean? But if you look behind everything that those types of people want, like $15 an hour minimum wage, have you ever worked a job ever? You sweeping floors does not create $15 worth of value. It just
Right,
doesn't.
right,
It
right.
doesn't. You know what I mean? And people don't seem to understand that. They don't put the time in. They don't work hard. People, in my experience in the market, I live in a part of Maine where the average starting wage at call centers around here is like $13 an hour. And there's at least 10 call centers around here, and they're always hiring. Always. But people don't want to work. They're either too good to do it. They don't want to. I know some of it's verbal abuse, and I can understand why people wouldn't want to subject themselves to that. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's no shortage of opportunities. You know what I mean? People just don't want to take those opportunities because they don't see them as valuable. They don't see a way to market them to to the next opportunity. It's just a lack of imagination, dude, and it's an externalization of blame. They want to blame the government. Yeah, it's the government's fault, but it's not because the government's is giving to people who aren't you. It's because the government exists.
Yeah, I worked in a supermarket, my first job, stacking frozen food for something like the $8 an hour, $9, something like that. And I remember Stefan Malini saying how your first job or jobs are they're brutal because you're probably gonna have a horrible boss who like verbally abuses you most likely,
Yep.
and that's kind of like boot camp. It's like if you can get past that level, you will have a much better time. Better bosses that respect you. But you have to go through that. Everybody goes through that, right? And what's funny is people act like those jobs are like long-term career jobs. Like they're gonna, and that's why the $15 minimum wage. That's why they lobby for that. They're like, I'm gonna have this for the rest of my life. I got to make $15. So,
Right, exactly.
so before we go, can you let people know like how they can find your work and just replug your stuff again.
Yeah, man, you can find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Jared Howe. JaredHowe. If you search for Jerry1 on Facebook, it'll most likely come up. There'll be a few extra letters and numbers in there. Don't worry about that. If you search Jerry1 on SoundCloud, you'll find me. If you search Jerry1 on Google, you'll find me. If you search Rap Game Bill Hicks, you'll find me. I unfortunately do not have a website. On the other hand, I do manage all of my social media. So if you're listening to my music and you're liking my music and you want to give me some feedback, it's going to be me personally that you're interacting with.
Awesome. So before we go, if I like to ask this of my guests, if somebody were to come up to you and they're like on the fence about voluntarism and anarchy and they're not sure about it, or even maybe somebody that that you met that if you want to drop some truth before you leave them, what would you say to them to like plant a seed in their mind and get them to really consider voluntarism?
Voluntarism. I really like one saying I say a lot. Sometimes it gets a reaction, sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure I borrowed it from somebody. I can't claim to have invented it, but it's, if you're not a voluntarist, then you basically are in support of forcing non-consensual or forcing interactions onto people who never consented to them and who are minding their own business. And usually people will fill in the blanks with terms like unconsensual or didn't consent, and I think a lot of people's minds goes toward rape. And they instantly see that and they're like, wait a second, but I'm not a voluntarist because reasons. It's like, so I think that you're being unkind, but they can't unhear that. You know what I mean? Especially since it hooks people into conversations and you say, well, the only alternative, if you got them hooked, you might as well say, how does government pay for anything? It doesn't sell anything, or it doesn't create anything of value. It doesn't invest things for a return. How does it get money? It steals, and how it steals at gunpoint. If people resist, then they're shot or they're thrown into a cage. And I know that's a hard starting point for a lot of people, and I know it's not the easiest sell, but I really just don't give a fuck. To be honest,
just to go along that, like if you said that to me, let's say I was a statist, right? I can imagine some people say, well, you're just an idealist because you think everyone's good. Like you think everyone's going to be good, and and you're utopian. So what would you say to somebody like that?
Okay, so you're saying that not everybody is good, so we need to have, and people can't be trusted, so we need to have a group of people who might not be good to have a monopoly on force and violence over everybody else. That makes sense. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like the short responses. Just cut straight to the point. That's the sophist trick, isn't it? It's just running in circles and creating all these different circles, and it's a waste of fucking time. Yeah. Government is a gun to the head. If that makes you uncomfortable, if you don't want to hear that, then don't fucking pay attention to me. I don't care what you have to say, but as long as I've been saying, the more I say that and the more I keep repeating that and reminding people of that, a lot of people seem to be feeling my message. So I don't know. I can't say I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah,
no one can really say I'm doing it wrong. I'm not holding a gun to somebody's head, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and another way to say what you said is, if you can't trust people with freedom, how can you trust them with power?
No, yeah, exactly.
Right, so that's an awesome point to hammer home. But awesome conversation, Jared. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Great talking to you, Danilo. I'd like to talk to you again soon. I'd love to get on the Seeds of Liberty podcast. You guys have some great conversations on there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll contact them. You can come on. We're always looking for new, fresh guests. So cool. Yeah, we'll definitely have you there. And I'd love to have you back on again here. I'm sure you're always cranking out new songs all the time, right? So
yeah, actually, I forgot to mention I have a new song on SoundCloud every Sunday, and for the last year.
Nice.
I've been doing that, so it's not going to stop anytime soon. If you're digging what I'm making, tune in every week.
Oh, let me ask, is there a way if people want to donate to you? Patreon, Bitcoin, PayPal?
I don't really have open donation source, but I'll actually send you a link to my Bandcamp after this.
Okay.
If people want to go to Bandcamp, they can purchase or they can actually download some of my older material for free because I like to give stuff away for free. But if you feel inclined, you can donate money to me through PayPal on Bandcamp.
Yes, please do. If you like this stuff, that's how you want to see more of things in the world. You gotta let them know through monetary support. Same thing with me. If you like what I'm doing, help me out. Bitcoin, PayPal, or Patreon, please.
And even if you don't, I mean, what would mean a lot to me is just the shares.
Yeah.
Share the music, share the podcast. I really appreciate that stuff. Even more than money. I always like having more money, but it's not an imperative to have more of it for me right now. So
yeah, awesome, great. So we'll definitely have you back on when you come out with some awesome, a couple of more, hard hitters.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I'm sure there's a few things that we didn't get to as well. So I'm sure we can find something to talk about soon.
Oh yeah, there's always something going on in the statist world, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network and theconsciousresistance.com. and theseedsofliberty.com. Wishing everyone have a wonderful day. Take
Have a
care.
good one.
Bye.